I'm so excited. Anyway, I am very happy to be able to introduce our speaker this evening, Ellen C. I first saw Ellen in about 15 years ago at the Crested Butte Mountain Conference, and I saw her. She was doing a workshop with Jim B., and the name of the workshop was "We Insist on Having Fun." I didn't know it at that time how well they had cast that workshop. This woman has fun. I don't know. It doesn't matter where she is. She has fun. I've seen Ellen at least once a year for the last 15 years and sometimes twice, and I've never seen her not having fun, not laughing, not smiling, not having a good time. And I know that she has the same opportunities that we all have in life, but she's always having fun. She had so much fun the other day. She was jumping fences, literally. It was... But I'd like to take up no more of Ellen's time. I'd like to invite her up and speak with us tonight. She will make you laugh. She will probably bring a few tears to the house. And she will teach us a lot about Al-Anon and the way to live. Ellen.
My name is Ellen Cassidy, and I'm an enthusiastic, boundlessly grateful Al-Anon. Aloha. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me to Paradise and letting me share this. Would you please? I wish you would. Sure. It's hiding my face. And letting me share this weekend with you. I sat in for as long as I could stay awake last night for the meeting. And I was greatly moved by the sharing that happened last night and the energy that was in this room and the energy that's in this room tonight, the energy that's in there when you all are standing around outside. I am honored to be part of that, and thank you for Sue and Walden. And they're the perfect host and hostess, in case you didn't know. They think about food, and that's very important to me. And I'm getting to spend this time with some people that are really close to me, and I am really grateful for that. Okay, well, your bottoms are in for a long evening. Sorry. I get first shot at it, though. I introduced myself as an Al-Anon, and I want to explain it. That's not good news. Explaining things is how I got to Al-Anon. I always thought if I could get you to listen long enough, if I could find the right word at the right time, then you'd understand why my way really was the right way, and you'd want to do that, and we'd all be happy. What's happened in Al-Anon is that God has used those things that I thought were defects of character and has found a use for all of them, and one of them is my explaining muscle. Now he says, Ellen, you've really honed that to quite a skill, and I'd like to send you around to little groups of people in wonderful places and some not so wonderful places, but wonderful people nonetheless, and let you just explain your heart away, and tonight's your night in the barrel. Al-Anon is not what I wanted to be when I grew up. The only thing I ever wanted to be when I grew up, and I think maybe from, at least from the time I was born and maybe before that, was what I wanted to be was somebody's wife and somebody's mother. And I was going to be the best wife he ever had, and I was going to be the best mother those children ever had. And I had to be in Al-Anon for a couple of years before I realized that never in my life had I wanted to be me. I never wanted to be the best wife I could be. I never wanted to be the best mother I could be. I wanted to be the best in somebody else's eyes. And it's an unattainable goal and very frustrating for everyone involved. What I ended up being was somebody's judge and somebody's juror and somebody's executioner, and none of us were happy. When I got to Al-Anon, I decided after a while that I didn't want to be here. But then I never wanted to be here. I always wanted to be someplace else with somebody else doing something else. I'd been in Al-Anon a short time, and I decided what I really wanted to be was alcoholic. Well, I had a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it seemed to me that alcoholic women had more fun than we did. And number 2, apparently my husband preferred them. I'm just reporting. And so I decided what I really wanted to be was alcoholic. Well, let me tell you first off that I love alcoholic women. I love all alcoholics. I don't care what you are. Martian, I don't care. I love all alcoholics. That's why I'm here. That's why I keep coming, because I love alcoholics. Alcoholic women I love very much. I did not come into Al-Anon surrendered, and I don't know that many of us do. I came into Al-Anon looking for one more thing that might work. Looking for one more thing I could try to get him sober, and then my life would be okay. What happens is life. And life continues to offer us opportunities to surrender. If you don't know whether or not you've surrendered, you haven't. It really won't leave any doubt in your mind when that happens. And just because you've done it once doesn't mean you're done either. And if you haven't surrendered, just wait. Just stay close. Wait. Your chance will come. If you don't take that one, that's okay. There's another one coming right behind it. It's a little more painful. Be a little louder. A few more people will watch you. But it's coming. Luckily, I was in Al-Anon when my next big opportunity at surrender came along. And it was the alcoholic women who took me in and said, honey, those Al-Anons mean well, but they really have no idea. I didn't have to explain the black hole to them because they had been in the black hole. And it was where I was leaving. One of them took me under her wing and she said, honey, you need 447 through 452 and you need it till you don't need it anymore. And that was the pages on acceptance in the 3rd edition. And I still need those pages today. Acceptance is the answer to most every problem I can think of. So I'm telling you that I love alcoholic women. But now I'm going to tell you that the day I decided to be alcoholic, I wasn't going to drink to be alcoholic. Oh, no. For one thing, I come from a family of heavy drinkers. I come from a family that really enjoys drinking. And I thought what grown-ups did when they got to be grown-ups, part of your passage is 2 drinks every day. And I had my 2 drinks just about every day, and I enjoyed almost all of however much of those I had. And I'd been to enough meetings to hear about the line, and I wasn't sure if I allowed myself to drink all that I could, all there was. I wasn't sure that I wasn't going to cross the line, and I knew if you cross the line, there are very few chances of getting blah, 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 but that's, you know how that head goes when you're thinking things, That's the way my head goes. So I wasn't going to drink, and besides, I needed to be alcoholic that afternoon. I really didn't have time. So the solution I came up with is the same solution I always come up with in my diseasiness. I think if I change how it looks on the outside, it's going to change how it feels on the inside. All I have to do is change how it looks, how my perception is of whatever this is. And then magically, I am okay. So really all I had to do was look alcoholic. Okay, well, my first meeting was November 7th of 1981 in gorgeous North Dallas, Texas. And there is a look to alcoholic women in Dallas, Texas. Perhaps you can imagine this look. So I had to borrow the clothes because I don't own those kind of clothes. And I showed up that evening in my new alcoholic outfit, in my skin-tight jeans and stiletto heels. I was hot, too. Well, made a couple of discoveries in that little experiment. Number 1, I don't like anything that controlled me like those pants did. And number 2, Al-Anons really are doomed to sensible shoes. We're really built for speed and not for looks. If you love an alcoholic, you have got to be ready to go in a heartbeat, or you could lose him and kill yourself in the attempt. So, luckily, the place I decided to do that little experiment was at the Crested Butte Mountain Conference in Crested Butte, Colorado, with 600 of my closest friends. And there was that week 4 women who had between them 125 years of Al-Anon, and this was in 1984. And that was a lot of Al-Anon in 1984. And I got to not only hear their stories and got to go to meetings with them, I got to have meals with them, I got to sit with them one-on-one, but most importantly, I got to watch their interaction with their families, and I finally knew what it was I wanted to be when I grew up, a question that always haunted me. I love that fear prayer in the big book. It says, direct my attention to please remove this fear and direct my attention to what you would have me be, not what you would have me do. I'm a human doing. I think I got to do something to get out of the fear. And the book says, no, it's just to be. And so the question is, who do I want to be when I grow up? Who I want to be is free. One of the people who shared last night talked about that what he'd gotten was free, and that's what I want so much. I want the freedom to be who it is God would have me be today. I want the freedom from the bondage of Ellen, who ties herself up in knots on a regular basis in her old ideas. And so I walked away from that conference so grateful that there was such a thing as Al-Anon, and somehow, some way, I had stumbled into it. They told me when I was new in Al-Anon, one of the first things they said to me was, shut up. Shh, just be quiet. You really have nothing to say to your husband, really nothing. You can talk about the weather, maybe, but that's all. And he loved that part. He really did. He thought for a while I was ill. And then he found out I was going to Al-Anon, and it scared him for a while, but the quiet thing just won out over everything else. And the other thing they said was I had to quit diagnosing people as alcoholic. I'm very, very good at it. It is one of my strengths. Back in the later on in the 80s, and I was a single mom trying to raise my kids, and I had my best friend in the program was a single mom, and we were trying to figure a way to make more money so we could blah blah blah. And it was back in the time of What Color Is Your Parachute or whatever that book was. Figure out your bless, do your bless, and the money will fall from the sky or something. And so we were trying to figure out what we were really good at. We decided we made the mistake of discussing it with our sponsor. We never should have done that. But we told her that we wanted to open a little business called Drunk Busters. And the deal was, because it was into action, if you were dating somebody and you weren't sure whether or not he was alcoholic, for a small fee, we'd go out with him. And if we came back thinking he was the cutest thing since sliced bread, you'd know if he didn't have a chip, he needed one, She wouldn't let us do it. Anyway, they said I had to quit diagnosing people as alcoholic. But they said, precious, if they walk like a duck and they swim like a duck and they quack like a duck, you need to treat them like ducks. You've lived your whole life in other people's reality, and it's time you started living in your own. And I need to tell you that the sound of quacking is like mother's milk to me. If I don't hear the quacking, apparently I will hunt until I find the quacking. I'm not soothed until I hear quacking. I was raised in a family where I could have sworn I heard my parents quacking. I'm not the only person, but all you need to know is that I heard quacking. It says in our tradition that the only requirement for membership is that there be a problem of alcoholism in a relative or friend. It does not say that there has to be someone who says they're alcoholic. It does not say that you have to see somebody with a drink in their hand. All it says is that there's a problem of alcoholism in a relative or friend. And it's like, I can't believe I'm telling you all of this. We don't have time, God. Stop it. Anyway, when I was married this last time, I'm just going to number them for you because it's really simpler. Number 2 time, he was interviewing treatment centers to see if he might find one that he approved of. And every time we went to one, he would ask him, how do you know you're alcoholic? And he was looking for a date or a gallon or a age or a ring around his body or something. And the last one we went to said, I cannot tell looking at you, but I can tell looking at her. And I cried. It was the first time anybody in the earth world had acknowledged how hard it is to love an alcoholic and live in the middle of that. So the best way to find out whether or not there's alcoholism in your family, come to Al-Anon. Keep coming. If it works, there's alcoholism in your family. And if it doesn't work, you're not trying hard enough. We all have it. Anyway. I had these parents that I thought I heard quacking. I have lots of brothers and sisters, and the quacking is so loud when we're together, it's just almost makes you deaf. My brothers will tell these fabulous stories about, remember the time we, and one of them will always say, well, you remember drinking was involved. Well, of course it was involved. I had been married to several quackers. I raised a quacker. And I worked for a guy who quacked in his office for 13 years. But none of these people are what has made me Al-Anon. You know, when I got to Al-Anon, I didn't have very many opinions. I either had yours or the opposite of yours, depending on what I wanted you to do. Today I have opinions. I have very strong opinions, and it's neither good nor bad. It's just the way it is. It's just different. And what I was offered in Al-Anon was a different way to live. I have very strong opinions about people being called Al-Anon. If you want to watch the hair on my neck stand up, let me be in the room when some new drunk comes in. And somebody says, well, look, there's John, the new drunk. And there's Jane, his little Al-Anon wife, twitching in behind him, because we do tend to come with a twitch. And the only reason they're calling her Al-Anon is because she's twitching in behind John. She is not an Al-Anon, she's an alligator. Al-Anon is not a program for people who need it. The statistics are, for every alcoholic, there are 1 to 5 people profoundly affected. There are 10 to 42 people directly affected. I don't know about 6 to 10, but it really worries me. I'm sure it's not good. Al-Anon ought to be 4 times bigger than AA, and it's not. As hard as it is to come to AA, and I know it's hard to come to AA, God knows I've tried to shove a couple of them in the door and couldn't get them in. I think it's harder to come to Al-Anon. It is almost impossible to come and ask for help when there's nothing the matter with you. That's the place where the alcoholics always wait to see if we're going to laugh. They think we don't know. No, we know. We do. And as hard as it is to get to Al-Anon, I think it's harder to stay here. Most of us come here looking for one more thing. Most of us come in here looking for relief. We don't come looking for recovery. We come looking for relief. We come looking to feel a little better. And you come to some meetings and you talk to some people and you read a little literature, and before you know it, you feel a little better. And you don't have to stay. You can go on back out. The group I go to is the best group in the whole world, and we really are good about sticking to sharing only our experience, strength, and hope and staying in the solution. But every once in a while, somebody will want to share an old war story about what happened the last time old George got drunk, you know. And she'll say, remember that time George got drunk and he passed out? And I poured fingernail polish in one of his open orifices someplace, and he woke up the next morning and went, ah! And he's been sober ever since. Well, you watch the newcomers in the room, and they go, oh. And you got to pray for the George in their life, because he's got a rude awakening the next day. If that sounds like a good solution to you, it is not. It is not. The last people to get them sober are us. We're the last ones. A lot of times they have to get sober in spite of us. It's hard to stay here. Al-Anon is not a program for people who want it. We get lots of newcomers coming to our meetings, but they can't stay. They don't stay. Sometimes the laughter draws them in, and sometimes the laughter repels them, because alcoholism isn't funny. It's a deadly disease. It kills the people who have it, and it kills the people who love them. Do you know who uses the insurance first in an alcoholic home? The non-alcoholic. Alcoholics have blessed moments of blackout. Not us. We're awake and taking notes. We usually lose people at step 3. That's the place where we tell people, if you work this step, your life's going to change. And what you hear is the Al-Anon chorus. Oh, no, it's not that bad. Really, it's not that bad. Bob told this story once. I don't know that I've ever heard him tell it again, but apparently he just told it enough just one time so I could hear him, and I can say it 1,000 times now. We're like people in a lake of liquid manure up to about here. It's not very pleasant, but it's ours. And we've been here while it's been rising, you know, and it's familiar. It's at least familiar. And you just learn to adapt. You just kind of get a little higher on your tiptoes and tilt your head back a little farther. And people come along in a boat and they say, you know what, you don't have to live like that, and we can show you a way out of there. And we go, oh, no, that's okay. I just want you to keep that guy over there from making waves. And what I don't like about that mostly is the only thing that guy can kick up is my stuff. It's my stuff he kicks up. Al-Anon is really only a program for people who are willing to work at it, because that's what it requires, is ongoing, not necessarily consistent, but ongoing effort. I'm an Al-Anon because I have a 12-step recovery program that I practice like my life depends on it. I'm convinced today of the fatal nature of my disease. I'm an Al-Anon because I have a sponsor who knows everything there is to know about me and maybe more, because I've never told her anything that surprised her. And I talk to her on a regular basis. And when she's not home, I talk to her husband. And when he's not home, I talk to the machine. I'm an Al-Anon because I have a committed meeting I go to every week like a doctor's appointment. If you want to find me, you come Monday night at 6:15 to the Addison Al-Anon family group meeting, and that's where I'll be. And when I walk in there, they go, "Oh, Ellen, there you are." Sometimes they have to say it with their eyes because I can be late sometimes, but I know what they're saying. And it's one of the reasons I love to come to things like this, because I love to watch you greet each other. You probably went to a meeting together sometime this week or last week, but we greet each other like survivors off of shipwreck, you know. Oh, there you are. There you are. How are you? How's that crummy kid? Blah, 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 blah. You know, people at business conferences don't act like this. They don't. They don't act like that. And I just soak it up when I'm with you. I'm an Al-Anon. I'm so grateful there is such a thing as Al-Anon to be. When I was 17, my mama diagnosed me, and mama diagnosed me as boy crazy. And the place mama sent me to be safe was Lubbock, Texas. And Lubbock, Texas, in case you don't know, and I'm happy for you if you don't know, Lubbock, Texas is where the very first Al-Anon meeting in the entire state of Texas was held. It's in what we call a dry area. Now, do you know about dry areas here? That's where they tell alcoholics they can't drink in the city limits. Now, nothing, as we know, will make them drink faster than tell them they can't. And for somebody like me who was always looking for him, because I was always looking for him, even if I had a him, you had to keep your eye out for a better him. And if you had one, there were always better hymns, you know. And it made my hunting a lot easier because the alcoholics are very easy to find. They're all right outside the city limits at those little places right there. And talk about shooting ducks in a barrel, you know. I hunted for 6 months before I found him, but I finally found him. And he was married to somebody else and had 2 kids and was 60 pounds overweight, but none of that seemed insurmountable to me. I personally have never liked the easy ones, you know. The ones that go, "Oh, you're so cute. Can I have it?" No, get away from me. I want those ones you have to fight for, you know. Those ones you have to earn. Those ones you have to make love you. Yes. And then you go, and that would last, a week, 10 days, you know. And then you're like, well, there you are. This one lasted a little longer. A year later, we had shed the wife, the 2 kids, and the 60 pounds, and I had my prize. Oh, lucky, lucky me. We were married 6 months when he hit me the first time. He was drunk when he hit me. He was drunk every time he hit me. I did not grow up in a family where adults hit each other, so the reaction I had to that wasn't anything anybody taught me. I thought it up all by myself. I found it in this fabulous solution center between my ears. I have come to discover that the problems in my life are not really the problems in my life. The problems in my life are the solutions I come up with for what I perceive to be the problems in my life. The very best solution I could come up with that day was to double dog dare him to do it again. I'd been in Al-Anon a while, but it took me a while to do an inventory where I was honest about that, because I never told a soul about that. And when the words came out of my mouth and my ears heard them, I went, ooh, dear, there's a little touch of insanity in there. But it made perfect sense at the time, and of course it didn't take any more insanity on his part to hit me the second time than it did the first time. And we lived like that for 9 more years, because I'm a sticker. I will make my bed and I will damn near die in it. I left him because another guy came along, surprise, surprise, who said, you don't have to live like that, and I love you. He added the magic words. When I came to Al-Anon, there was a sign on my desk at work that said, Wonder Woman works here. And I tell people, if your business is failing, you don't have any alligators working for you. We are fabulous in our dis-ease in the workplace. We will come in early. We will stay late. We will work through lunch. Hell, we won't even eat lunch. We'll do our job and somebody else's, whether they want us to or not. We will make you look good. And that's what I did at my job. It was a place, as I lost more and more control at home, it was a place where I took more and more control in my job. And I looked like the most efficient, the most organized woman on the planet, which was as far from the truth as it could be. When I got to Al-Anon, I think most of us come, I know you're thinking to yourself, what do these stories have to do with each other? I don't know. Just stay with me as best you can. I think most of us come to Al-Anon with one of two feelings. We either come in angry or we come in hurt. If you come in angry, you got to learn to deal with the hurt. If you come in hurt, you got to learn to deal with the anger. It's the same feeling. It's either whether we blow it out on you or suck it in on us. I came to Al-Anon with one feeling, and that was hurt. That's all I felt. Everything hurt. And one day my sponsor would say, I'd be talking to her on the phone, and she'd say, okay, well, how do you feel about that? And I'd go, I don't know. And she'd say, well, of course you do. Who else does? And I'd say, well, I just don't know how I feel. So she made me get one of those magnet things for the refrigerator with the faces on it, you know. And it would say, if your face looks like this, this is how you feel. So she would say, how do you feel? And I'd say, I don't know. And she'd say, go to the refrigerator. So I'd go to the refrigerator and try to find a face that looked like I felt, and then I'd try to manufacture that feeling, you know. But it was all I had. And the day came when I had a new feeling, and I was thrilled. I was just thrilled. I knew it was a new feeling to me, and I was excited about it. And I called her to tell her because I knew she'd be thrilled. And she said, so what is it? And I said, fear. She said, that's great. What are you afraid of? Oh. Do I need to know that part? She said, yeah, we found it helpful to know exactly what it is you're afraid of. But see, the deal is, fear is not a defect of character. What I have is fear of fear. What I have, because when I'm afraid, the fear takes over. The fear takes over my brain. The fear takes over my breathing. The fear takes over my heart. The fear takes over everything. And I lose my life in the fear. And I'm afraid to be afraid. I don't want to get lost again. And I'll do anything rather than be afraid. But I had this wonderful sponsor who would sit with me and say, I'd tell her, I don't know what's going on. I'm feeling crazy. I don't know what's going on. She'd say, start talking. Tell me when you get to the right words. She sat with me through those scary, scary feelings, even if it was over the phone. And so she sat with me. She said, okay, well, let's talk about the fear. She believed that you should follow a fear to its root cause. So she said, what are you afraid of? And I said, well, I know what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid he's going to leave me. She said, why do you think that? And I said, well, he told me he was going to leave me. She said, oh, when is he leaving? I said, Friday. He told me he was leaving Friday. She said, I'll give you a little hint, hon. The way to know whether or not an alcoholic is leaving you or not is if he's gone. That was my first lesson in turn off the sound and look at the picture. She said, sometimes the sound will confuse you. Turn the sound off, just look at the picture and see what's happening. And she said, okay, well, let's go a little further with that. Let's just say he's left you. Now, how do you think you're going to feel if he leaves you? And I said, oh, my gosh, I'm even more afraid. Well, you know, it took a long time for me to get to this. But the process was, I'm afraid he's going to leave me. I'm afraid he's going to leave me by myself. And I do not want to be by myself. I'm afraid to be by myself. I'm afraid if I'm by myself, the next thing is, I'm afraid if I'm by myself, I'm not enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not enough. I'm not enough to take care of myself. And if I'm not enough, my next fear is, then I'll die. If I can't take care of myself, I'll die. And I know today there was another fear underneath that one which says, I'll die and there is no God. It became life and death to me that he stay. Now watch how neatly she ties this all up. Oh, it really has nothing to do with me. If it was up to me, I'd be off down the road someplace. But when somebody said, I love you to me, what I heard was, I will take care of you. I won't leave you. I'll stay with you. So when this guy came along who said, you don't have to live like that, and I love you, I grabbed him like a dying woman. And that's what I was. Now, it took me a year to nail him, but I am like the Mounties. I always get my man. And I knew what I'd done wrong the first time, and I had a list. And this guy was everything on the list. Right height, right coloring, right age, right education, right family, right money, right everything. Except for this one tiny little flaw, he didn't come home nights. But I'm thinking a couple of home-cooked meals and a little, and I'll have it. Yeah, that was the way I used to mark my territory before menopause. Now, who cares? I forgot what all the fuss was about, I just like to go to bed early myself. Anyway, what I didn't know was that there was a whole subset of alcoholic that I was not familiar with, and that was the bar drinking variety alcoholic, and that's what I had. And but for about a year he came home every night, so I was pretty sure I was doing everything right, because it is all about me, And he came home every night, and I was pretty sure I was doing it all right, and I was very proud of myself. And then the night came, he didn't come home. Duh. And I lay on the floor of the bathroom, and I cried because I was pretty sure he'd seen the 2 pounds I gained, and that's why he didn't love me anymore, and that's why I wasn't coming home. And then I decided, stupid me, this morning when he said, "What's for dinner?" I said, "Roast beef." What was I thinking? Everybody knows pork chops are his favorite thing. From now on, whenever he asks me what's for dinner, I'm always going to say pork chops. And then he will come home. And then I decided what I really needed to do was go sit on the sofa and wait. Now, if you're in training for Al-Anon, you must pass Waiting 101, and that's what this was. And the way you know that you're in Waiting 101 is if when you're waiting, you can do nothing else. I couldn't talk on the phone, I couldn't cook a meal, couldn't wash your clothes, couldn't watch TV. The kids would come up and they'd go, "Mom," and I'd go, "I can't talk to you, I'm waiting." And that's because while I was waiting, I was listening. And I was listening for the sound of those tires. There are 44 bazillion other tires on the planet. I don't care about them. Only care about those tires. And I can hear them coming a block, 2 blocks away. I know those tires. And I have the same reaction to the sound of those tires that I've heard alcoholics say a drink did for them. I would hear those tires and I'd go, it's all okay. It's all okay. He's coming home. And it's all going to be okay. Now, I'll have to kill him in his bed, but at least he'll die at home, And it was always preferable to be a widow than a divorcee. And, of course, he came home. I've discovered now that 99 times out of 100 they come home. It might be that day or the next week or 3 years later, but they come home. And I met him at the door like a 3-year-old who's been crying all afternoon, and you've said, "Stop it." I was at that place, with the big swollen eyes and the snot slinging everywhere. You know what I mean. Very attractive. I can't imagine why he drinks. And I asked the second stupidest question. The stupidest, of course, is, "Have you been drinking?" Second stupidest is, "Where have you been?" Because there was really only one acceptable answer. And I don't know about you, but my mind has a life of its own up here. And what happens is my mind had already decided what had happened to him. My mind had gotten obsessed. No, yes. And obsession for me is all-out warfare on powerlessness. The more powerless I feel, the more obsessed I get. I may get obsessed about the thing I'm powerless over, and I might pick out something else altogether. I'm an equal opportunity obsessor. I can do it about my weight or yours. I can do it about my children or yours. But today it doesn't scare me so much when that squirrel cage thinking starts, because it's what it is for me today as a sign. There's a place in my life I'm powerless, and I have either not been willing or able to look at it. But what happened then was my brain took over. And in it's obsession if in your mind somebody dies. You take it all the way to that. And this is what my brain had decided. My brain had decided that for some reason, I don't know why, he was driving his car out in the country, and then for some reason, I don't know why, the car blew up. And it blew his body into this ditch by the side of the road. It was really quite ugly. And people were driving by, but they couldn't see him because he was down in the ditch. And he was very badly hurt. He wasn't dead, but he was dying. And with his dying breath, he was calling me. Yes. And he was saying, Ellen! Ellen, I love you. And now wild animals were coming and tearing off body parts and strewing them in the forest, and it'll be 7 years before we can identify the body. Well, that's what I called love when I came here. And I came to discover that's not love. No, that's obsession. So really, when I asked him where had he been, the only acceptable answer was in a ditch bleeding. Anything else was going to hurt my feelings. And he said to me, Jesus, you knew where I was. Well, the truth of the matter is I knew where he was. He only went 3 places. He was at home, at work, or in the trap room drinking. But my brain has the ability to hold opposing thoughts, and they never touch. And the 2 thoughts are, number 1, he loves me more than anything in the world. And the other one is, he's in the trap room drinking. But if this one's true, and remember, my life hangs on this one. If this one is true, then this one can't be true. That's denial. And what I will do in my diseasiness is I'd rather wish you dead than know the truth. And he said, Jesus, yeah, certainly worked yourself up into a state, little missy. I'm not sure why I stay married to you. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. What is the matter with this picture? He's 3 hours late and drunk, and I'm the one standing there apologizing. I have an addiction to mind-altering men. Actually, I've come to discover it's not limited to men. Anybody can screw up my brain. You don't even have to want to. You don't even have to be present to win. I can do it all by myself for you, you know. So, yeah, that's where we were living. And we rocked on like that for a while. And this lady called at work one day, and she was a lady who scared me because she was an angry lady, and I didn't like angry people. They scared me. I thought it was because they reminded me of alcoholics. I wasn't sure what they were going to do next. I always need to know what you're going to do next. I say it so that I can be prepared. What I mean is so I can be in control. I think if an Al-Anon had written the big book, it would have said lack of control. That was our dilemma. Now, I'm not sure it isn't the same thing. I'm not sure that's not just semantics. What I came to discover in Al-Anon was it wasn't her anger that scared me. It was my anger that scared me. It had been a long, long time since I'd allowed myself to be angry, and all I had was rage. And I would pin my children to the wall with that rage, but they were the only ones who ever saw it. But anyway, this lady called crying, and if you want to watch all the alarms go off for an alligator, put us around people who are crying. Primary alligator illusion is when you're okay, then I'll be okay. And I have to do everything in my power to make you okay. Looks very loving and kind on the outside. It's the most self-centered behavior on the planet. I don't do it because I care about you. I do it because I need a reaction back from you that will make me okay. I'll go places I don't want to go with people I don't want to be with. I'll eat when I'm not hungry, and I won't eat when I am. I'll stay up all night in the hospital with your sick mother when I don't like hospitals, and I certainly don't like your mother. I do it because I need a reaction back from you. My friend Rick from Toronto says we're not people pleasers, we're approval suckers. It's not pretty, but that's the truth. And we have a deal in my Al-Anon group. I don't know about your Al-Anon group, but in my meetings, somebody cries at just about every meeting. It's just what happens. People cry in an Al-Anon meeting. They cry because they hurt. They cry because they're safe. They cry because they don't know why, and it's okay, you don't need to go why, you can just cry. And we must have 8 or 9 boxes of Kleenexes sitting around the table, and when somebody cries, we do not shove the Kleenex at them. It's a very subtle way of saying, dry up your tears, I bet they're bothering you because they're bothering me. We don't do that. My friend told me early in Al-Anon, she said, maybe the best thing we do for each other in here is we attend each other's pain. We don't tell each other, wipe that look off your face, miss, and you can come back to another meeting. Or if you'll just get a little better attitude, we might let you share. We attend each other's pain. If they need to cry, we let them cry. And we don't put our arms around them and tell them everything's going to be okay, because I can't make you that promise. The book says what I'm supposed to share is what I used to be like and what happened and what I'm like today, not what it used to be like and what it's like today, because there are plenty of times today when it still sucks, big time. What's different today is me. And my reaction, my response to what's going on. So if you're having a hard time, we'll sit with you. We will love you. And we will promise you that more than likely there's someone in the room who has already gone through what you're going through. And whatever it is, you don't have to do it alone. Whatever it is, you don't have to do it alone. But I didn't know that the day she was crying. And she cried on the phone and she said, I'm calling to tell you that my husband is in a 12-step recovery program for alcoholism. And as part of his recovery, we're going to pay the school back all the money we owe you, but it's going to take us a while. And I said, oh, I understand. My husband drinks too much too. I'd never said that out loud to anybody before. And really, his drinking was not the problem. His not coming home nights was the problem. But I thought that was about me. If I was a better wife, if I cooked a better meal, if the kids were quieter, if the house was cleaner, if I moved the TV 2 feet over here, then maybe he'd want to come home. And I sure wasn't going to tell anybody that. I didn't know I was talking to somebody new in Al-Anon, and we're deadly when we're new. We got a lot of answers. Don't know what the questions are, but we got a lot of answers. And she was perfect for me. She called me on a regular basis. Nobody told her she shouldn't hunt, and she hunted me. And finally the day came when I got sentenced by a doctor to go to Al-Anon. He said, I don't have your answers, and the only people who might have them are the Al-Anons. And she called the next day. And I said, I'm ready to go. And she took me to a meeting. She took me to 6 meetings. She was not sure I would go if I wasn't escorted, which was probably a good thing. On my 7th meeting, I took myself. And you know how it is when someone else has been driving you and now you got to drive yourself, and I'm not exactly sure how to get there. And this was in this funky AA club. Is there any other kind? And you had to climb these stairs, and then at the top of the stairs it said, only 12 more steps. And for some reason, AA always finds it necessary to put their sickest people on the door. I don't know why. This guy's name was Ocean, and he shook like nobody's business with a cup of coffee in his hand. So how would you want to get anywhere near him? And he goes, hi, welcome to AA. And I said, well, I'm really here for Al-Anon. And he went, oh. Oh, Al-Anon. Well, you have to go through the big room where the really sick people are, to the little room in the back where their tables don't exactly match, because we give them our hand-down tables. And they're all kind of purse-lipped and blue-haired, and those are the Al-Anons. Oh, yeah, those are the people I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, you know. And now look at me. Purse-lipped and blue-haired? No. I landed in a nest of winners, and they say you should stick with the winners. The problem is that most of the time they don't have name tags on, which is another reason I love weekends like this. It seems like the winners have name tags on this weekend. The winners are the ones who want more than that first miracle. The winners are the ones who want more than just to survive this deal. The winners are the ones who want everything this program has to offer. And Al-Anon, that's people who go to more than one meeting a week, in my opinion. It's people who go to open AA meetings and find out about the disease of alcoholism. I was in a group of folks who would call me up and they'd say, so-and-so is doing the steps across town on Thursday night. We're going to go. We'll pick you up. Get in the car. I thought that was the first step. Get in the car. They didn't say, do you want to? Do you have a babysitter? Can you go? They said, get in the car. And my husband really was actually kind of thrilled for me to go. I'd been going to Al-Anon a while, a couple of years, I guess, and I got a call one day from this woman one Monday morning, and she said, oh, my goodness, look at that. She said, I want to talk to you. She said, your husband's been here with my husband all weekend long drinking. And I said to him, how can you do this? How can you treat your wife like this? How can she put up with this kind of behavior? And he said you'd found a way and I should call you. He was 12-7 for Al-Anon, you know. Anyway, she couldn't stay. She was too angry. She needed to go back out and be angry some more. Anyway, I'd been in Al-Anon a couple of years when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was too young. There was no history of it in my family. I was the first person in known memory to have breast cancer. And that the prognosis they gave me was I had a 60-40 chance of living another 5 years. It had already moved out, and they didn't see much hope for me. Some hope, but not much. And that was when the Al-Anons and the AAs took over my life. And that was my year of surrender. And that was the year I finally, step 11, sunk into the place where I heard God's voice and I heard Him say, listen, love, if you want to come home, come home. That's the direction you're walking in, and I'd love to have you back. But if you're not ready to go, you don't have to go. You don't have to go. But you're going to have to own your own life. And I had never owned my own life. He was always up to somebody else. I told him for the umpteenth time, and I meant it. I did an inventory, and I discovered that what happens to me is cancer is prevalent in alcoholic homes. There were studies back then that said cancer was a stress-related disease. And I believe the cancer I had was a stress-caused disease. And I believe there's nothing more stressful for me than living in active alcoholism. For the umpteenth time, I said it to him, and for the first time I meant it, if you don't stay sober, you can't stay here. Because I break out in malignancies when I'm living in active alcoholism. And he moved out. And if you ask him why he left, he would have told you it was that crazy daughter of mine that anyone who had to live with that little wench should drink to. Well, I knew she was crazy. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind about crazy. She was crazy. Probably still is. But a couple of years later, they called from her school, and they said, there's something the matter with your daughter. Duh. And they said, we're gonna send her in for an evaluation. Really? Yes. 2 days later, the guy calls from the treatment center, and he says, Ms. Davis, hate to tell you this, but we do believe your daughter's alcoholic. And I said, yes. And he says, we've not had a lot of mothers react like that. And I'm like, it's alcoholism. I thought she was crazy. It's an Al-Anon disease. No sign she'll ever get any help for that. But alcoholism. Yes, 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 yes. And she's 17. I can make her do stuff, you know. A lot of pent-up frustration. So I took her to a place that would force-feed the steps into her. And she stayed sober about a year and a half. Statistics are that 80% of the young people have to go back out because they're not done. And I am so grateful to AA that you do what you do for the reason you do and not for some kind of success rate. She stayed sober about a year and a half, and she went back out, and it was much worse when she went back out. Of course it was. And she moved out of the state. She said, I don't know if it's me or Texas. And she called me one night and said, I have to have $300 by the morning or else. And I didn't have $300 to give her. And there was long periods of time when I didn't know where she was. And the night came where she showed up. And the next morning she called and she said, Mom, I don't know what to do. And I said, oh, yeah, you know what to do. She said, I don't know who to call. And I said, yeah, you know who to call. She said, I don't have her phone number. And I said, I have both of them, home and work. It was her first sponsor. I had kept in touch with her. Anyway, my daughter got sober twice before it was ever legal for her to drink once. She has 18 years of continuous sobriety. That's your miracle, not mine. She's 39 years old. She spent half of her life in Alcoholics Anonymous. She is an awesome, awesome young woman. If God had given me the daughter I designed, how short I would have sold us both. About the time Melissa decided, when she was sober the first time, she started hanging out in slippery places with slippery people, and I told her that if she didn't stay sober, she couldn't stay with me, and because it felt like I'd die. You know, I'd die. If she started drinking, I'd die. And the last thing I wanted to do was kick my daughter out of the house. I love my daughter. I love my daughter. I wanted her healthy, happy, home and whole, and she couldn't do any of those things. And the morning came. I picked the day to be the deadline for her to live up to her part of the deal, to be the day I was leaving to go to Crested Butte to be with 600 of my closest friends, because I so did not want to kick my daughter out of the house, and I knew I would need your support. And that was the morning she announced that I was going to be a grandmother. She was 18, and I thought that would change everything. Now I got to stay home and be the responsible party again. And after a couple of hours of saying horrible things to her, I finally picked up the phone and called my sponsor and turned myself in. And my sponsor said, do you want her to stay? I said, I do not want her to stay, and I feel terrible about that. Shouldn't a mother want her child to stay? She said, honey, there are only so many bad feelings in every relationship. Those are her bad feelings. Let her have them. And she said, if you don't want her to stay, I'll stay on the phone while you tell her. And I can see the phone lying on my bed, and I quit hurting. I thought the pain, the horrible pain, was about making her move. And what I discovered was the horrible pain was about holding on to her when it was time to let her go. The pain is always in the resistance. It's never in the release. And I told her she had to leave and change the locks, and she just climbed through the window for a while, but hey. And I went to Crested Butte, and then we went through this horrible fall, and she went around telling people what a horrible mother I was. She was pregnant, and I wouldn't let her live at home, and I went through the fall telling people what a horrible daughter she was. I went to the Brazos Riverside Conference, and my friend Buddy Ross was taping, and I went to Buddy, and I was serious as possible. And I said, Buddy, She's pregnant at me now. Because it is all about me, in case you hadn't noticed. And Buddy, God love him, said, I understand, Ellen. He said, I understand how you feel. But he said, you know what? Our son's girlfriend had a baby out of wedlock, and that child has been the light of our lives. It never occurred to me I might like it. I had loved babies all my life, and God was offering me a baby, and I had this old idea. And what I said was, yeah, but. I think maybe that the sanity offered me in step 2 may be nothing short of paradise. And the reason I don't have paradise is because I say, yeah, but. Not today, God. Not this way, God. Not this child, God. Not now. This is not right. I'm telling God how the universe ought to be run. My journey in Al-Anon has been the journey from yeah, but to thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for everything exactly as it is. That to me today is acceptance. Thank you for it all, exactly as it is. And I decided, thanks to Al-Anon, to say thank you for the baby. Thank you for the baby. A couple of months later, my daughter called and she said, Mom, that blue blanket you're knitting, you're going to have to knit faster. I had a sonogram today. It's twin boys. You know them alcoholics. If one's good, let's have another. But you know what I know today is if she just had one baby, you'd have a different speaker. She had 2 babies. And I needed that second baby in the world's worst way. She came home with me from the hospital with the boys, and when they were 5 weeks old, she said, Mom, I'm not going to keep them, and you can have them if you want them. And I don't know if you've never been loved by an Al-Anon, you do not know what you're missing. We love at a cellular level. We love you from somewhere just below your feet to somewhere just above your head, and sometimes where you walk is hallowed ground. And I had fallen in love with heartbeats in the hospital. I loved them before they got there. And the idea of giving them up was about the hardest thing I could think of. My sponsor had been telling me for years that God wants for me what I want for me in my heart of hearts, but I'm such an Al-Anon. I'm so afraid I might make the wrong decision. What if I decide on that, and then next week something better comes, and I'm stuck because I decided on that last week? Shoot, I hate it when that happens. So what I do is I just don't make a decision. I let the alcoholics decide, and then I get mad. If you want to watch something painful, watch the Al-Anons try to decide where to go for lunch. It's, oh, I don't care, where do you want to go? Oh, I don't care where you want to go. I'm not really that hungry. Thank God they're double winners, who walk up and go, hamburgers, we want to get hamburgers. Oh, thank you, hamburgers, just what I want. Boop, 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 boop. And off we go. She said, honey, your job is walking in the direction of your dreams. Where you get is God's deal, and God's promise to you is this or something better. God's not a terrorist waiting around the corner to test your patience. God wants you to have it all. And what I wanted more than anything was to be those boys' grandmother. I didn't want to be their mom. They're the children of 2 addicts, and I'm through raising kids. So my daughter moved out and gave me power of attorney, and I went to adoption agencies, and I said, I'm looking for a family that wants 2 babies and a grandmother. If you don't say what you want, you're never going to get it, It took a while. We thought it would take weeks. It took months. And they were just about 5 months old when we found the family. And they let me pick the day to surrender the babies. And I picked the day to be the day I was leaving to go to Crested View to be with 600 of my closest friends. It was the hardest thing I ever did was give those babies up. Every reason I had for keeping them was for me, and every reason I had for giving them up was for them. And my son and my daughter and I took our babies and handed them over to their new parents. Well, the babies were 20 years old this last March. And there's not been a month that they haven't seen me. I'm their grandma, and I've always been their grandma. We have a meal together every month. They come to my house for Christmas. They come to my house for Easter. The last few years have been kind of exciting for their parents who don't believe in alcoholism. Oh, baby. The dad is just about bald. The mom is wearing a wig all the time, and been a little crazy. Tony, but they've both done a lot of time in jail. Tony did the first amount of time in jail because he kept forgetting that the rules were for everybody, And Cameron got arrested. Oh, well, he didn't get arrested because they got him inside Walmart. If they'd have waited till he got outside, they could have arrested him. He had the newest illegal addition to his ladies' underwear collection that he had at home. Anyway, I I adore them, and they know I adore them. And my job as grandma is love you no matter what, and I'm fabulous at that job, love you no matter what. Tony called me not too long ago, Grandma, can I come over and show you my new wheels? I said, oh, baby, I'd love to see your new wheels. And I said, I'll act surprised. He said, oh, you're going to be surprised. And he shows up on this bright blue Kawasaki, and up the driveway. Oh, yeah, I'm so thrilled. Ah. His dad had the big one over it. He didn't want to tell his dad, didn't want to tell his mom, but he could come show me. That's very excellent. About the time the boys left me, I decided I was going to have to quit dating. I'd done an inventory and discovered since I was 12, I've either been chasing after, catching, going with, waiting for, engaged to, married to, divorced from, engaged to, married to, divorced from somebody. But there had always been somebody. I walk with this great big hole beside me, and I keep throwing people in the hole to make me okay. And I'd like to tell you how special they all are, but I don't remember most of their names. And I decided if I was ever going to figure out who I was going to have to be detached. So if you're not going to hang out with guys, it leaves you one other choice. Girls. Yeah, girls are okay, but they're not my first choice. I mean, I'm just not a girly girl. And that's been great about hanging out with Sue. She does a good impression of girl, but she doesn't have to do the girly girl thing, Shopping, if you want, let's go shopping, shoot me. I shop like a man. If you don't know what you want, don't go in there. And when you find it in there, kill it and get it out. If you have something to say on the phone, say it and hang up the phone. I'm busy. But I got no choice. Now I got to go with the women. So I'd call up the girls and I'd say, I'm going to the conference, have my big old car. You're welcome to come ride with me. And if it takes you 12 pairs of shoes for a 3-day conference, I got the room. Come on, I can do it in my Nikes. But, if you need more, come on. Every time you have to pee, we'll stop the car. I think I could make it to Kansas from where I live, but women are so funny. You're riding along in the car with them, and they go, oh, look, there's a bathroom. Do I have to? Yes, I do. Pull in. Anyway, and the big concession was I said, okay, and every time we pass a Walmart, we'll go in. Now I believe there ought to be red neon crosses in the front of Walmart because I think healing happens in the aisles of Walmart. That's where I was healed over a $5 bathing suit. We laughed so hard over that bathing suit, I thought they'd have to call for cleanup on aisle 7, I always wanted God to speak to me in thunder and lightning because drama is my life. And God rolls his eyes and he says, sweetheart, if I did that one more time, you'd miss the message and get lost in the messenger. God speaks to me in the language I understand best, and that's another woman. And I hung out with the women long enough to find out an amazing thing about myself. I'm enough. Nobody has to be added to make me okay. I'm enough. Sometimes I'm more than enough. Sometimes I wear myself out. And that was when this guy asked me out, and he wasn't in the program, and I had no intention of getting messed up with somebody in the program. I've already had all of that I need, thank you, and all those T-shirts. And so we're married now. Of course, we've been married almost 16 years. And so when I married him, everybody said, "Oh, look, you got a normal guy." You know who a normal guy is? It's somebody whose story you haven't heard yet. I knew he wasn't normal just by the way I felt about him. He couldn't possibly have been normal. And we'd been married a couple of years, and I went through a really tough year, and did an inventory with my sponsor, and she said, okay, we were at the Brazos Riverside Conference, and she said, tell me what you're furious about. We'll do that first. And I said, the first thing I'm furious about is his snoring. I love him, but I wake up in the middle of the night thinking of the stories I'm going to tell God about what happened to him after I smother him in his sleep. And the second thing I turned over was his drinking. He was not an abusive drunk. He came home when he said he was going to come home. What I turned over was my reaction to the smell of alcohol on him. I would open the door and go, hello. And if I smelled alcohol, my night went to hell in a handbasket. And I needed to know that he could drink and I'd be okay. And an hour later, he walked up to the podium, said he was an alcoholic, and he hasn't had a drink since. And that was October of 1994. I did the same thing with him I did with my daughter. It's the best thing I can do for the people I love. I got a program, I got a life, and I got out of their way. And I let them do what they needed to do. He says he dated his way into Alcoholics Anonymous. AA doesn't care why you come, It hardly cares why you stay. They just get in here. About the time A couple of years ago, my son called and he said, Mom, we want you to quit your job and stay home. We're having a baby, and we want you to take care of our baby. This was the boy I pinned to the wall with my anger, and he wants me to stay home and take care of his baby. And a couple of months later, my daughter called from California, and she said, Mom, we're having a baby, and we're moving home, and we want you to quit your job and stay home and take care of our baby. And my husband said, No, you can't possibly. We need all the money you make. He made like 10 times the amount of money but I recognize fear of financial insecurity when I see it. And so I said, okay. But as God would have it, after the first one was born, he heard a set of Clint Hodges tapes. And someone asked Clint in the tape, they said, exactly how much money would you have to feel so you wouldn't feel financially insecure? And Clint said, just enough money so I wouldn't have to trust God. Yeah, and that's pretty much what my husband said. And he said, okay, if you want to come home, you can come home. So I didn't quit my job because I'm an Al-Anon. No, sir. I brought it home with me, and I opened this little business called Moms Better Babies, affordable daycare for your priceless children. But the only children I'll keep are my grandkids, so don't ask. Madison came to me in August, and she was exactly to the day the same age the twins were, the day we gave them up. God didn't miss a beat. And 4 months later, when he was 3 weeks old, Tristan came to stay with me. And 14 months later, Kennedy came. And 7 months later, Sutton came. My son and my daughter had 4 children in 3 years, and I had the best job known to man. Being a grandma all day, every day. You could go to work in your pajamas. You could feed them sugar all day long if you wanted to. You're not paying for the dentist. What do you care, you know? They paid me to sleep with my clients, too. It was the best job ever. And then they had to leave. You know, they got old enough to go to their neighborhood schools, and for the first time I had empty nest. You know, I changed the locks on both of my kids. But Al-Anon allows you to go full circle, and I get to celebrate, I get to experience everything there is, and I got to experience that with them. I still get them on holidays and vacations and sick days. We always sort of quietly celebrate when one of them's sick. Madison always goes, Mimi Town. I want to go to Mimi Town. Linda and I had the same sponsor for a lot of years, and she was. I got a call one Thursday that the prognosis they'd given her was she had 2 weeks to a month to live, and I told her, I said, tell her I can't come today and I can't come tomorrow. I got the kids, but I'll be there Saturday. Saturday I'll be there. And I got a little frustrated. I got a little sidetracked. I got a little focused on not what was in front of me. And apparently I had to get the kids to one of them to the doctor, and I had to jam all 4 of these kids in the car in their car seats, and apparently I was a little brusque with them as I was doing it. And Tristan reached over and he patted me on the arm and he said, Mimi, breathe in, breathe out. It was my sponsor talking right through the little kid, you know. And the other one said, Mimi, there ain't nobody in here but us chickens. And I knew what she was saying. You got to focus on what's in front of you. We take them every summer to the Crested Butte Mountain Conference to be with 600 of our closest friends and their children. I cannot keep alcoholism from happening to them. I cannot keep it from happening. What I can do is maybe, just maybe, make AA and Al-Anon a safe place so that when difficulty happens, they'll know where to go and it won't be hard to get there. A week ago Wednesday, the best dad in the whole world, my dad, passed. And I got to spend 5 days with him before he passed. He was 89 and a half years old, and he was ready to go. There are 9 children, and we were all there. And I had the experience of hearing my dad say to me, I'm so proud of you. And he gave it to Al-Anon. He said, I don't know what your position is exactly in Al-Anon. One of many, Dad, one of many. That's all I am. My stepmother said to me when I was leaving, she said, I need you to take my daughter home with you and take her to Al-Anon and get her fixed, please. She's a wreck. They think I'm fixed. That's the joke. What I want to thank you for is the relationship I had with my dad, that I still have with him. I was so clear with him when he passed that mostly what's left today is gratitude that he was my dad. And I got to be the best daughter I could be. You know, the deal is I always want to do the right thing. I want to be right. And then we say in the program, do you want to be right or you want to be happy? Well, it's do you want to be right or do you want to be free? And I want to be free. And what I've learned in here is if I fight for what's right, I'll lose. God wants what's best. And sometimes what's best and what's right are not the same thing. So all I have to look at is what's right for me today. My sponsor says you don't have a God who makes things good for one person and hurts the other person. That's not the deal. God always does a win-win deal. If I do what's right, what's best for me, it'll be what's best for you, whether you believe that or not. I used to think that when I died and went to heaven, God was going to say, pull out the VCR and the tape, and I want to know how her husband and her children turned out. And if they turned out to be fine, upstanding members of the community, she's earned her way into heaven and she can come in. I'm so grateful that you let me find another God. I don't know what happens when we're done here, but my tendency when I don't know what's going to happen next is I make up little stories and I live in my little stories. And my sponsor says this is a story I can have. I suspect that when my body gets tired of doing whatever in the world it is we're doing here, and that little part of me that's always been God's goes to wherever it is God is, when I get there, God's going to go, oh, precious, there you are. Welcome home. You know, heaven's heaven when you're not here, but it's just not perfect without you. And he's going to say, you know what? I've been running a little experiment down there. No, it's really not a test. It's nothing you could pass or fail. It was just an experiment. And I'd like your opinion. Yes, maybe in your heaven God will want your opinion, but in my heaven he wants my opinion. And the first thing he's going to say is, Ellen, did you have a good time? You know, there wasn't a single thing I did to torment you. Everything I did was to make your life happy, joyous, and free. There was no reason for flowers to be different colors except I thought it'd make you smile. And I knew you loved babies, so I put a lot of them in your life, and I hope you didn't miss them. And because of you, I'm going to be able to say, oh, yes, God, I had a great time at your party. Thanks for asking me. And the second thing he's going to say is, were you Ellen? You were the only one like that I made. I had things for you to do that nobody else could do. I had things that I needed you to do because my hands are too big. And that question scared me because I've lived so much of my life trying to be what I thought other people wanted me to be that I didn't know if I had been me. I do a written inventory every night, and it's changed through the years. And for a number of years, what I wrote was, Today, Ellen. And I wrote down what I knew that day was mine to do. This was mine to do tonight. You could have had another speaker and been done, 10, 15 minutes ago, but that's not what happened to you. This is what happened to you. What I discovered after a couple of years of doing that was that 99% of what I wrote down is what you would call service work. It was where I was meant to be. I was meant to be right here in this place today. And the last thing he's going to say is, Precious, did you ever get the joke? I got the joke the year of cancer. I got the joke standing at the back door with a 60-40 chance of living another 5 years. I got the joke standing at the back door with a husband who said, what's for dinner, and didn't come home for 3 more weeks. I got the joke standing at the back door with a hot pink neon orange daughter who was living over the edge of the planet someplace, and a beige navy blue boy who disappeared more and more and more every day into himself. He slept more during the day and stayed awake more at night, and I was getting ready to go outside, and I had lost all the hair on my body. Children, all the hair. Chemotherapy, you know. It takes all your hair and most of your senses. And I had, except for the gray hair. Gray stayed like fried nerve endings that kind of blew around on my head. And I was going to put a little hat on so I wouldn't offend anybody with my fried nerve endings. And that was when I looked down and realized I was going to have to go back in the house and shave my legs. Yeah. Lost all the hair except under my arms and on my legs. That was the day I got the joke. Because the question that came to me is, how are you right this minute? And right that minute, right that second, I was just fine. I always am. Right here, right now, I am just fine. What I almost missed was now. What I almost missed was my life. Because I couldn't be here now with you. There's a guy in our group that says the glass isn't half full or half empty. The glass is just too big. I believe the glass... Bill Cosby says the glass is either half full or half empty, depending on whether you're drinking or pouring. And the magic that happens here is when you allow me to stand up here and pour. When I sit down, I'm the one whose cup overflows. And I thank you.
for Ellen from the Big Island.